Hi, this is David Dickens, and today we are going to discuss a 22-year-old who just inherited a bunch of money when his mother unexpectedly died. And his uncle is pretty worried about how the 22-year-old is going to maybe get out of control with his money. This is a direct follow-up from our very last podcast, Protecting Heirs from Themselves. I thought this situation drew some great parallels. I'm also going to match it up with a situation I know about from a friend of mine who's managing some leftover money to some younger people. Hopefully there's something in here just for you. I'll go get Walter and we'll get started.
Back at it again on Cover Your Assets KC. I'm Walter Storholt, as always, joined by David Dickens, office in Overland Park, serving folks in Kansas City and beyond. He's the president and wealth advisor of Creative One Advisors Group, and you can find us online. Just check for the contact information in the description of today's show if you have any questions as we go through a great conversation today. Yeah, I guess that's in a way, it's like part 2 of protecting your heirs from themselves based on this listener question that we've gotten here, David. So this should be pretty fun to tackle, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. I thought it was a really good dovetail to what we did last time. And it also, I mentioned in the intro, but I have a friend who's the executor of his aunt's estate, and the heirs are these 20-something young fellas. And that's a situation where I think was done really well, but this listener question could get out of control. So want to do a little compare and contrast. I think it's going to have, if you didn't listen to the prior podcast about protecting heirs from themselves, I think it'd be really good. Either pause this one, go back and listen, or listen to that one after we're done here. The headline from that one is, there was a study that 43% of heirs spend through every penny of what they inherit within the first 12 months. So that's the situation that this particular uncle for this episode is trying to protect against. So that's kind of the setup. That's where we're going, and I hope it's going to be a pretty interesting little discussion.
Yeah, let's get ready to dive in here. Your numbers that you brought to the table were pretty fascinating last time around, and I have no concerns that we'll be fascinated by some of the takeaways from today's episode too, David. So here is the question in full. My sister just died and left a substantial sum of money to her 22-year-old son, my nephew. My nephew's dad isn't really in the picture, so he won't be providing any guidance to him. I'm very worried about what will happen with this money if a 22-year-old is in control of it. What should I tell him to do with it before it gets spent on cars or whatever else he might want to buy?
Yeah, so it's a really super good question. The phraseology in the question was, if a 22-year-old is in control of it. Well, he's going to be in control of it based on everything you said in this question, because she left it with evidently no guardrails, no trust. So let's just say that the inheritance includes an IRA of hers, maybe some bank cash, and maybe the home that she lived in. So the IRA probably named him as the beneficiary. If it didn't, he's not getting that money. If he was named the beneficiary, then he has to clean that out in 10 years, you probably know, as the uncle of this young fella. But he can take it all in the first month. He just has to pay taxes on it. So there's no guardrail whatsoever as to how slowly he has to take the money out. He can do whatever he wants. The bank cash, let's just say she had both the bank cash, maybe a CD, and her home she had with transfer on death or payable on death. If that's the case, then there won't be a probate judge, a probate attorney in place. The young fella just gets the bank cash and he gets title to the home. And then he'll either live in the home or sell it. That's kind of the layout. Your question is, what should you tell him before he gets the money to spend on cars or whatever else he might want to buy? So we don't know anything about your relationship with this nephew. Hopefully it's really good and he's really close. You said his dad isn't in the picture. So maybe he looked to you as a father figure growing up, and so you would have some influence.
So sounds like the listener's definitely taking on some responsibility here, saying like, I need to look out for this kid, whatever their relationship might look like. He's got that sense. Yeah.
It does have that sense. And if he has a good relationship with this nephew, then it all becomes a lot easier. If he has a poor relationship or a distant relationship, well, then if the 22-year-old is mature, he might take some advice. If he's immature, well, he's going to get control of this pot of money, and he's going to do with it what he wants to do with it. And really, nobody can legally stop him based on the information that we have. Had there been a trust in place, then mother would have been able to distribute it from the grave. Let's say, for instance, one example we talked about in the last episode was she could have set up distributions at age 25 and age 30 and age 35, or maybe she provides the down payment for the home he wants to buy, and it comes out of this trust. And maybe the uncle would have been the executor of the trust. So that would have been controlling it from the grave, and that would have relieved a lot of the concern here. I told you I was going to contrast this with a situation that I have a friend who is working through in Kansas City right now. His aunt, who was in her 90s, died with way more money than anybody thought she had. And she had these two, I guess they would be great nephews, 20-somethings, 25 and 27, I believe they are. One lives in Florida, one lives in Ohio. The aunt lived in a different state that had a state tax. But anyway, she was wise enough to set up a trust. So this gentleman who submitted this question to us today, his sister didn't set up a trust, evidently. But this woman, the friend of mine, is the executor of this woman's trust. And it lays out when these boys are going to get which amounts of money. Now, the IRAs, they can take out over time, and they seem to be both college-educated, employed, outstanding citizens, based on all I can tell. And they're very likely to do a systematic withdrawal from the IRAs. But there was also a big pot of non-IRA money, and that gets distributed them at various ages. So as you're listening to this, and you're not the uncle that submitted the question, for your own heirs, especially if they're younger, there are ways to keep them from getting a rush of money all at one time. And as you mature, you tend to look at money differently after you've had a chance to actually need to earn your own money. So those two situations, the one with my friend and the one who's asking this question, they are dramatically different. One is being controlled from the grave. There's some bumper rails put in place for these young heirs. In the case of the submitted question, there are no bumper guards. There are no rails put up. So it's going to be up to him. And then to answer your question, uncle, you can discuss and advise with this young fella, but he doesn't have to take your advice. You might, let's just say that you have a financial advisor that you've been using for a long time and you really like this person. A lot of times in your 20s and 30s, you might take advice from someone you're not related to more readily than you might take advice from someone you are related to. So another idea is you get your nephew's agreement that it might be good to sit down with your financial advisor and just chat through this situation. And of course, you tip off the financial advisor, well, here's what it looks like. Here's how I think it should run. And then your financial advisor hopefully is wise enough to ask the 22-year-old a lot of good questions, figure out where their mind is on this, and give that 22-year-old some ideas as to how he can make this money be an asset instead of a windfall. My goal in this, if I were you, and it sounds like this is your goal as well, is to turn this money, this inheritance, into a longer-term asset for this young man, instead of a windfall that he might just blow through. And then the third idea, let's say that he doesn't really want to hear it from you, and maybe you don't have a financial advisor. Maybe the bank cash or the home does have to go through probate, and somebody is going to have to open up a probate estate. You're going to have to get a probate attorney, and this is all going to take 6 months to a year to get through probate court before he can actually get his hands on those types of monies. Maybe he gets the IRAs right away. But you might find a probate attorney who would be open to offering some sort of counsel to this 22-year-old nephew based on what that probate attorney has seen over the years. So you're in a tricky situation. We don't know anything about your nephew, whether he is financially inclined. Maybe he's in his last year of college. Maybe he is in the military because he skipped college. It's just hard. We don't know anything about him. But what we do know is that if he's open to listening to you, then you should, I think, freely discuss and try to give some solid advice to this fella. If he's not open to you, try a third party, a trusted third party. Maybe your advisor, maybe a probate attorney, maybe another relative of some sort. But as we discussed in the last podcast, protecting heirs from themselves is really, really important. You just assume, and it sounds like your fear is, that this 22-year-old nephew might be one of the 43% who spend through it all in the first 12 months. And that'd be pretty sad. Typically what happens is they spend through that, they don't invest the money in anything that has any lasting value, and about 12 or 15 months from now, they end up in the same financial spot that they find themselves before this fellow's mother died. So good luck. Congratulations to your nephew for having an uncle who is concerned about it and is willing to invest some time and energy into it. So we wish you the best. If there's anything we can do, we don't even know if you live in Kansas City, but if there's anything we can do, we would be happy to do that as well. You can let us know through any of the channels that we talk about here, but we wish you the best in this situation.
Yeah, it's a really great question and a situation that, based on our last episode and looking at the stats, a lot of people will go through and a lot of people will mess it up. And so this is fantastic to have this kind of spirit. What a blessing for that 22-year-old to have somebody in their family hoping to look out for them in a certain way and try to help out. And fingers crossed that good communication can happen there. I mean, the intention is half the battle, David. The communication and the execution, as you identified, it's a little bit harder piece that we can't really control, right? The 22-year-old's going to be in power, so is what it is there. But
they are going to have total control, and then it's a matter of, it's certainly not based on, it's logical, but based on my experience, it's not a one conversation either. The uncle, if this is a welcomed conversation, this is an ongoing discussion between he and this nephew. Maybe they meet monthly for coffee. Maybe they talk about it quarterly. Maybe they set up a financial plan that this young fella can buy into. So there are a lot of ways this can go, and a bunch of them are positive. I think the way it probably goes south fast is if it turns contentious or controversial. So, there's a little bit of careful stepping that needs to take place. It sounds like the uncle's heart is in the right place, and hopefully this all works out really well.
Yeah, good points. It can be a delicate matter. And so, and legally, the 22-year-old, like you said, he's in charge of it. So, can't really go and tell him what to do with it at this point. He's got some control. So that's great. But you illustrated, obviously, some other ways to go about organizing that. And so if you've listened to today's episode and you're like, yeah, I don't want to leave my 22-year-old or fill in the blank in possible age, in a situation like this. I'd like to do some more thoughtful planning with those dollars. Well, those are the kinds of reviews and conversations that David and his team walk folks through pretty much every day in the office. And so if you'd like to set up a time to meet and to discuss your financial plan, your retirement plan, and legacy conversations like this, it's all included in the planning process. And you can get in touch by calling 913-317-1414 or go online to creativeoneadvisorsgroup.com. That's all spelled out, creativeoneadvisorsgroup.com. We've also got that contact info in the description of today's show, so you can find it easily. David, thanks for the help this week. Really enjoyed the conversation and looking forward to our chat next time.
Yeah, next time we're going to talk, it's two more listener questions, both of whom are on the doorstep of retirement, but they have two totally separate questions. So I'm looking forward to that one. We'll do it again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We'll have those two questions prepped and ready next time around. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time on Cover Your Assets, KC.
Creative One Advisors Group has been proudly serving families in the Kansas City metropolitan area since 2003. Over the years, we've evolved to help meet the needs of our clients, becoming KC Financial Advisors in 2010. In November 2021, our advisory business was acquired by Creative One Wealth LLC, C1W, and in January 2025, we officially adopted the name Creative One Advisors Group. Previous episodes were recorded under the branding of KC Financial Advisors, which has since been rebranded as Creative One Advisors Group. Any references to KC Financial Advisors should now be understood as referring to Creative One Advisors Group. Investment advisory services are offered through Creative One Wealth LLC, a registered investment Investment Advisor. Creative One Advisors Group is a DBA of Creative One Wealth. Insurance services are offered through licensed insurance professionals. Investment advisory services are provided in accordance with the fiduciary duty of care and loyalty that includes putting your interest first and disclosing conflicts. Insurance services have a best interest standard, which requires recommendations to be in your best interest. Creative One Wealth is not affiliated with or endorsed by any government agency and does not provide tax, legal, or estate planning advice or services. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No investment strategy can guarantee a profit or protect against loss. Neither asset allocation nor diversification can ensure a profit or guarantee against losses. None of the information contained herein shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit any offer to buy a security or any insurance product. Insurance product guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. The Creative One family of companies includes Creative One Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor, Creative One Securities LLC, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor, and Creative One Marketing LLC. These companies share common ownership. Additional details regarding advisory services are available in our firm's ADV Part 2A and Form CRS.